Commutes in our major cities have become increasingly volatile. Minor traffic delays are no longer just inconveniences. They are triggers for a visible spike in public anger and road rage that feels like it's reaching a boiling point. Under the current extreme temperatures, pedestrians are forced into survival mode. We see people wrapping their entire bodies in fabric and darting between patches of shade just to cross the street without physical distress. The standard narrative from global institutions is that we have a 50 to 100-year window before climate change renders the planet uninhabitable. Human social cohesion is physically more fragile than the environment. Long before the planet reaches a geological breaking point, the rising heat will likely push human behavior toward widespread violence and mental instability. This behavioral breakdown is the predictable outcome of a global economy that prioritizes high-consumption lifestyles promoted by cultural icons who are often insulated from the consequences of the emissions they generate. Our biology has a strict hard limit. The human brain and neural pathways are simply not evolved to function in 42 to 45 degrees Celsius heat. At these temperatures, the nervous system begins to struggle. This diagram models how extreme heat can impair the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for rational thought and impulse control, effectively short-circuiting our ability to remain calm. This isn't just a human issue, it's a mammalian one. Recent data from heat-stricken regions shows a 6-fold increase in dog bites. These animals aren't suffering from rabies. They are responding to heat-induced neurological stress. Human psychology follows the same biological rules. When our internal cooling systems fail, our threshold for anger drops. This heat influences our daily interactions, our spending habits, and our political hostility. Scientists refer to this large-scale behavioral shift as mass insanity. It is a state where the environment actively rewires a population toward aggression. While these biological pressures mount, corporate messaging focuses heavily on individual responsibility. We are told that switching to paper straws or buying an electric vehicle is the primary way to save the planet. Electric vehicle infrastructure is marketed as a total environmental reset, but it requires a massive, resource-heavy supply chain to function. For every ton of lithium required for EV batteries, mining operations must extract roughly 2 million liters of fresh water from the surrounding environment. An average citizen produces roughly 2.5 tons of carbon per year. It is a negligible amount compared to the scale of global industrial activity. This data visualization shows the reality of global emissions. That tiny dot is your annual footprint. The sphere represents the 80% of all global carbon emissions produced by just 57 corporate entities. Focusing public attention on individual consumer habits creates a protective buffer for the most aggressive polluters. It ensures the corporate entities responsible for the vast majority of emissions remain undisturbed, while public attention is diverted to lifestyle changes. There is a deep irony in modern celebrity culture. We worship the exact demographic whose lifestyles are accelerating this environmental collapse. Billionaire destination weddings and private island retreats produce thousands of kilos of waste and require massive energy expenditures, presented as the pinnacle of human success. A single flight on one of these private jets can emit more carbon than a working-class citizen generates over their entire lifetime. To survive the resulting heat, the middle class relies on air conditioning units mounted to every available wall. Thermodynamics is a losing game. Cooling an indoor room requires the external unit to pump massive heat back into the city. Lowering the indoor temperature by 1 degree uses energy that raises the outside temperature by 2 degrees, forcing power grids to burn more coal. We are trapped in a cycle where our survival mechanism is also the driver of the crisis. Trying to emulate elite consumption levels while maxing out a strained power grid is a direct path to system failure. If the power grid fails, the consequences for our densely packed cities will be immediate. Without electricity for water pumps or refrigeration, millions of people will be trapped in a lethal environment without medicine or clean water. In that scenario, the wealthy won't be sharing the burden. They will leave the toxic heat of the cities for their private, clean air estates in the mountains or overseas. We have to stop treating these lifestyles as aspirational. It is time to demand accountability from the icons we follow for the massive environmental cost of their luxury. We need to change how we define success. It shouldn't be measured by how many vehicles we own or how much we consume, but by how little destructive pressure we exert on the planet that sustains us. Our society doesn't need a natural disaster to collapse. If we continue to idolize the consumption levels that are destroying us, we will find ourselves violently breaking apart on these burning streets.